Debate on vote number 30, Central Statistical Service Appropriation Bill.
The Minister, having introduced this vote, as members will have noted, the Honourable Pregs Govender.
Madam Speaker, yesterday one of the National Party MPs proudly proclaimed that in the National Party they don't see colour and race. Somehow the irony and pathos of his statement seemed to escape him. The National Party, the architect of racial classification, that labelled him coloured in a party that sits here even today as a predominantly white male party. Transformation is not waving magic wands, mouthing the rhetoric of change, shouting hallelujah and then comfortably proceeding as you have for the decades and centuries of oppression. We sit today with the legacy of the hierarchies of race, class and gender of your past policy and practice. And that legacy cannot be pretended into non-existence. It cannot be pretended into non-existence. We need to systematically chart our progress in eradicating the race, class and gender disparities of the past. We need to measure and compare the changes that happen. The CSS could potentially play a significant role in ensuring the development of a statistical and information base that has validity and that could be used as the basis for the development of policy and the monitoring of change. To do that, however, the CSS must fundamentally break with its past that too easily lends itself in its composition and in the content of its work in the past to that famous dismissal of statistics, and I quote, lies, damned lies, unquote. In editing the Beijing report on the status of women, it became clear that the lies in this instance translates into the invisibility and the omission of women, particularly black working class women, in the official statistics of the past. Thus, most of the statistics and information drawn on for the Beijing report had to be obtained from sources other than the CSS, from progressive research organizations and individuals whose overall resources by comparison were minimal. I'd like to briefly mention a few of the statistics that are reflected in the report as a pointer to the rest of the report so that the CSS can begin to include the collection of all statistics in terms of race and gender and, where possible, class, until we reach that day of hallelujah where equality in the Constitution is equality in real terms. At government level, there are no women DGs at present. The 1991 figures show 155 of the 168 DGs, all 16 ambassadors, 43 of the 69 commission or committee chairs, and 4952 of the 5071 directors were white men. The first local government elections are planned for next year. The last available figures of 1991 show that only 5.8% of the 822 town clerks were women, and all but one were white. There were 776, 94.4% white men in these positions. A 1993 study based on 3 metropolitan city councils found that black women were generally employed as on a casual and temporary basis, thus falling outside the grading system and enjoying little job security or benefits. Women-headed households were shown in figures released this year by Saldru and the World Bank to be significantly poorer than average households, the mean per capita income being 243 rand for women-headed households. Data on poverty must be read against the virtually non-existent system of social security and the inadequacy of the child care system in our country. There are several different official measures of unemployment in South Africa that differ widely. What they have in common is that many experts agree that they are far too low. They hide large numbers of people trying to live off income in the informal sector, subsistence farming, and domestic work. In 1991, the CSS undertook its first survey of the informal sector. Whilst almost all writers on the subject agree that women form the majority in this sector, the survey, on the contrary, found only slightly more men than women, 1257635 men as against 1031581 women. Undercounting occurs because of the hidden and unacknowledged nature of much of women's work in this sector, as in most others. Secondly, many women hide themselves because they fear officialdom, particularly with the still fresh history of harassment of black people in this country. The CSS can learn from the progressive organizations and individuals who contributed to the Beijing report. It needs to look also at countries like India, which retrained their enumerators. Part of the training, for example, involved re-education and redefinition of work by showing the enumerators pictures of the work that women do, for example, cutting and carrying wood. In this country, subsistence farming is not regarded as work, and asking them if they classified these activities as work, etc., etc. A 1992 national study by case of young people between 16 and 30 illustrates both racial and gender disparities. Overall, 37% of the working women earned between 100 Rand and 500 Rand a month, and only a quarter earned above 1,500 Rand a month. African women in the main earned between 100 and 299 Rand a month. An estimated 3 million households, mostly rural, collect firewood on a daily basis. In the absence of electricity, women in rural areas spend up to 4.5 hours a day collecting wood. The absence of street lighting in many areas of the country has additional implications for women's personal safety and their ability to move about freely. They are forced to spend extra time, energy, and money collecting water and alternative fuels. The national statistics in the report that are quoted in the report put the infant mortality rate, the number of deaths of infants under 1 year of age per 1,000 live births for 1991 at 49 per 1,000. Other sources put the figure at 53 per 1,000 for the same year. The report quotes that 70% of all legal abortions in this country are performed on white women. Women who have no access to legal abortion frequently resort to illegal means. An estimated 200,000 to 300,000 illegal abortions occur each year in South Africa. There is one doctor for every 700 people in the metropolitan areas. In the former homeland areas, there are between 10,000 and 30,000 people per doctor. In this country, 2.8% of rapes are reported, according to the police. And the estimated rapes on that basis would bring the number in 1993 to approximately 966,000.